Calling to order the Imperial City Library Board of Trustees meeting.
Roll call. I've already started. Trustee Altamirano.
Present.
Trustee Blackwood.
Present.
President Brown.
Here. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adjustments to the agenda?
Mr. President, there are no adjustments to the agenda.
And this is the public appearances portion. Do we have anyone for public appearances?
Let the record reflect that there is no public comment or appearances. I'm sorry.
And do we have a special presentation?
Yes. Mr. President, members of the board, our first presentation will be the United for Libraries Division of American Library Association, which is the Short Takes for Trustees. And this 8-minute video is regarding library advocacy.
Welcome to Short Takes for Trustees. I'm Beth Novolinsky, the Director of Marketing and Communications for United for Libraries. We are the division of the American Library Association for trustees, advocates, friends, and foundations. I'm here today with our Executive Director, Sally Gardner-Reed, and we'll be speaking about advocacy. Sally, advocacy is becoming increasingly important for libraries these days. How important is it for library trustees to be involved in advocacy?
It's critically important. They're the library's leaders. If they aren't visible and vocal about the importance of libraries and working hard to get the community and the leaders in the community to support the library, if they're not showing that they care, why should anyone else care?
What are the best ways for trustees to be advocates for their library?
Well, fundamentally, and first of all, I think all library trustees should know the powers that be in their community on a first name basis. They should know the mayor, they should know all the council people in their community and other people who have a lot of influence. So whether or not they've been elected by the community at large or appointed by these people, they should know them. These people have a lot of influence, and you want that influence to be in favor of the library. So on a regular basis, they should be visiting their mayor and their council person and letting them know what's going on at the library. Now, I know cold calls can be hard for some people, so if a particular trustee isn't comfortable making an appointment and just going over to visit, then he or she could just take a fellow trustee with them. And it's always good to take a piece of information about what's happening at the library with you, but it's not enough to just say, oh, we got this new computer lab at the library and we're really excited about it. You have to tell why it matters. That's really important. So you can say, we've got this wonderful computer lab at the library and it's so wonderful because we're seeing these kids who don't have computers at home coming in after school and they're doing their homework, and we're seeing that we can help level the playing field because we know many children go home, have computers at home, their parents are helping them with their homework. Well, these children can come right into the library, our librarians help them, they're printing reports, they're doing research, they're really able to compete academically, and we think that is so important. And in addition, we're seeing people who've been laid off from their work, who are unemployed, coming in and applying for jobs. I don't know if you realize this, but a lot of jobs, in fact, I would say most jobs, are not even accepting paper applications anymore. You have to apply online. And so what do you do if you're unemployed? The first thing you're probably going to cut is your internet. And so if you want to get back into a tax-paying employed situation, the library is just the place to come and apply for those jobs. The library staff will help you set up your own account. They can help you find resume resources, interview resources, so hopefully get you off of those unemployment taxes and food stamp services and right into that tax-paying employment services again. And we're also seeing entrepreneurs coming into the library, sort of setting up incubator spaces where they're hoping to launch a new business, which we find very exciting. So we may see some new small businesses here in town that got their start right at the library. We're really excited about that. So we're happy to see, you know, any support you throw our way, because we know a small investment in the library translates into big economic development and big economic drivers here in our own town.
Trustees should also be visible at budget times, right?
Absolutely. If the library's budget is part of a county or city line item, they should be there at budget time. But I have to say, not when the budget's being presented to the public. By then, it's too late. I see a lot of library supporters coming in red T-shirts with balloons at the town hearing on the budget. And sometimes they're able to get an incremental increase when they have enough people show up, but it's really too late. That budget's really put in place. So the trustees need to know the budget scheduling. When are the first budget talks taking place? When that happens is when the trustees need to be in there to present their budget informally, because typically there'll be a scheduled time for each department to present its budget. But they need to be there early on to explain how critically important it is for the library to be well funded.
You mentioned appointments for budget presentations. Can you tell us a little bit about what kinds of presentations would show the economic power of the library?
Well, I have to say, a lot of our funders really don't understand that libraries have become really critical in the digital age. Many of them think that libraries have become obsolete. I don't know how many times I've heard, and probably all of us have heard, that why do we need libraries when we have the internet, thinking that everybody's got a Kindle and they can all download books and we can find all the information we want on Google. Well, the fact is libraries have been doing what they've been doing for the last century and a half, which is collecting the world of information and making it freely available to all people, so everybody has access to all the information that there is out there. The world of information isn't free. In fact, for much of the information out there, it's very, very costly. But libraries are bearing that cost, as they always have, and redistributing and making it freely available. So we have to show the return on the investment and how valuable that return is on a very, very small investment. For example, most public libraries in the country receive less than 3% of any city's operating budget. So when a city decides they want to cut 10% of a library's budget, 10% of that 3 or less line item, that means library doors are going to close. So what are they gaining by cutting 10% of 3%? What are they gaining from that? Well, I can tell you what's happening at the library end of things. They are closing doors on job seekers, so they're going to continue to pay for unemployment and food stamps. They're closing doors on little kids who come to story times, who are going to, in all likelihood, be left behind in kindergarten, because studies show categorically that children who enter kindergarten without a book-rich environment enter behind kids who've had one, and most never catch up. What's the cost of that failure? That's the very definition of penny wise and pound foolish, I think. So we've got to show them that their investment in libraries, less than 3%, translates into huge economic dividends and huge social dividends in the end. And I think that's the case we have to make. You know, when I think about the fact that many cities decide that police and fire and some of those services are so costly and so important, I think that's the very definition of paying for our failure by not paying for prevention.
You are so right. It is a high price for failure, and libraries are so inexpensive for what they offer. Is it okay for trustees to rattle their sabers and shout from rooftops, or will that affect their credibility in some way?
I think their credibility is damaged immeasurably when we see libraries sort of wither on the vine. And it's not just the trustees, it's the community as a whole who lets this wonderful system that we've been developing over 100 years kind of go downhill because we're unwilling to fight for it. And as we just discussed, they're so inexpensive compared to the cost of not having this infrastructure available to our communities. So no, I think, in fact, just the opposite. They build their credibility when they fight for something as important as the public library.
And they certainly don't have to do it on their own because they have the Friends of the Library available to support them as well.
That's right, absolutely. Friends of libraries have been working hand in hand with trustees for years to make sure that libraries are well supported and to rattle those sabers together. And it's very exciting to see that happening because the more people that we can engage in a campaign at the local level, the more likely there is for success. So I'm glad you brought that up because Friends can be an incredibly important piece of that advocacy pie.
Are there any strategies that trustees and Friends can use for convincing funders and others that the library should be well funded?
Maybe the ways change, but some things, in fact, don't change. It's a grassroots campaign. I think many voices need to be engaged to convince our funders that libraries matter to their constituents. So the old ways sometimes still work, like postcards, petition campaigns, phone calls, letters to the editor. And now, of course, we have all the digital ways, social media, to go viral and make sure that those who fund us know that the people who vote them in or out of office really care about their libraries.
Thank you, Sally. That was a really fun discussion about advocacy and about all the passion that library trustees and Friends and we can all show for supporting our libraries. And for our viewers, we'd like to let you know that we've compiled a great list of resources that can help you not only talk about the importance of libraries, but show the value of libraries in your community. And this list will be provided to you by your library director. We encourage you to explore those resources, and if you have any questions, to speak to your library director about those.
Or visit Edible Gardens. We are currently working on a partnership with FarmSmart, and we are very excited for this amazing experience to be able to offer this summer.
Well, hunger doesn't go on vacation just because school lets out. We're the most awesome state in the richest country in the world, and like a quarter of our kids are either in poverty or at the edge of poverty. Like, you can't learn if you're hungry, right? I mean, it's that basic. So if all of the kids, right, who are getting fed, if all of them were getting fed in the summer, whether that's by a library or a community center or a church or whoever it happens to be, right, that would be the ideal.
Public libraries are natural spaces for providing children and teens with meals during the summer. They're trusted spaces at the heart of the community. They're popular with families. And also, library staff are able to provide programming and resources along with the meal service. And so more and more public libraries are now starting to serve meals, and more families are going to the library for those meals. Library staff are also collaborating with other summer meal sites in the community. They're taking programming and books and creating pop-up libraries that can attract families to other sites and increase summer learning and enrichment opportunities throughout the community.
we'll see all types of families, young children, teens, and their parents or their grandparents or their caregivers coming in, and not only the youth connecting, but those parents and caregivers connecting as well. So there's just so many benefits to that. And then while they're here in the library for the meal program, they're getting connected to everything else we have in the library that they never knew, of course. Oh, the library does that? Yeah, we do, right?
It's really about providing a service that they need and then showing them everything else that they can get for free. And we see that time after time again because they come in for meals and then they'll walk around the corner and sign up for summer reading, and then they realize that we have story times for their baby, and then they start coming to baby story times, and then they'll look even larger and branch out and realize that they have something for their older teenager, something for that teen to actually do to keep them busy during the summer. So it's really just opening them up to what a library can offer for their entire family.
There's a lot of families that do not have the income to feed their children those 3 meals a day. So coming to the library and just having that one meal is it's a huge help.
I normally rely on school lunch and school breakfast, but during their summer school program, they only offer free breakfast, not free lunch. So we find it very beneficial that I'll pick them up and then we'll come straight away here. And it is a huge blessing, huge blessing.
By feeding the kids, we're also allowing the parents to eat the food that they have at home. These families are hungry. There's food insecurities in our communities. And if we can feed their kids through a federal program, that means that those parents can go home and eat the food that they have in their fridges now.
In California, 1.7 million children who eat free or reduced price lunches during the school year do not access summer meals during the summer. And so it's so important that we expand all sorts of meal sites, whether they're in libraries or elsewhere. And so our goal is to continue encouraging more libraries to become summer meal sites, to make more meals accessible to children and provide nutritious meals for the children and teens who need them. We know that libraries are offering a wide variety of learning and enrichment programs over the summer, and children will be able to learn so much more from those programs and get so much more from those programs if they're not hungry when they're participating in them.
We're meeting the entire needs of every person in that family. And when you talk about summer meals, what you're ultimately doing is feeding people. Bottom line is that these people are eating. That's a hierarchical thing. You know, you can't succeed in other places of life if you are not fed, if you do not have a warm place to be, if you do not have clothes on your back. So for a public library to meet that basic necessity so that we can ensure that other things come to this family and that they have success in other ways, that is summer reading.
I'm struck more and more in this job by the passion that librarians bring to their work. When I see this program working, and I'm of an age, right, where the libraries, like, I'm sorry, there's noise. Like in my library as a kid, there was no noise. Somebody would stop, right? The food, like you couldn't bring food in there. And here are these things where these families and these kids and they're, right? There's noise, there's mess, there's all this stuff. And to a person, right, the librarians are like into it and see the value of it, not just for the people who are being served, but for the library, right? And for kind of the community at large. And it's killer. That's just unbelievably awesome.
So, Mr. President, currently we are applying for the pop-up library sites that we've done in the past. This came about during COVID to be able to serve the children, to serve them with the library programs. They're continuing that because they've seen a great response. We have been attempting to work with the school district to bring in food here as well, because there are other funding opportunities to train high school students to get job experience to help with the lunch at the library programs. So that is a big goal of actually bringing it to the library. We could actually serve the food and have them go across to the park and, you know, let them go over there with their families and whatnot, since the library's, you know, not that big. But at this point, until we find someone that will provide the food for us to serve, we're doing the pop-up programming. And then the farming, the farm to summer program as well, which is brand new this summer.
Discussions already started with the school
Yes,
district?
yes,
Is it the same USDA funding source
yes,
for that?
yes.
Let's move on to the consent agenda now. And,
Mr. President, so you can go ahead and allow everyone to cast their vote for this, for the consent agenda, since it doesn't need a motion in a second. Thank you.
Sorry. So the consent agenda, Mr. President, is all items appearing on the consent can be acted upon in the library board with one motion without discussion unless there should be any questions on the item. You do have one item here, so it would be at this point calling for a motion of the board and being able to take that vote.
motion that we pass the consent agenda.
It's a second.
I second.
Motion carried, 3-0.
Let's move on to the action agenda now. And this would be the mobile device lending guidelines.
Just 1 second to have this come up. I'll go ahead and start. So our first action item is our mobile device lending guidelines. The Imperial Public Library acquired 10 home connectivity kits, in addition to 9 Chromebooks and 7 hotspots to be made available for patrons to confront the digital divide. The equipment was provided through the Southern California Library Cooperative and the State Library from the American Rescue Plan Act. The library also has acquired 11 Chromebooks and 6 iPads and 15 hotspots that were purchased through the literacy program for its learners' use. An agreement is necessary to provide patrons the opportunity to check out the equipment. The library has worked with the IT department, utilizing the recommended policy provided by the state library. The city attorney has reviewed the agreement and does find it acceptable. Staff requests the board's recommendation to approve the agreement for submission to City Council for approval and adoption of the mobile device lending guide and agreement on March 16th of 2022. And I'll stand for any questions.
Through it the other day, and the only thing that kind of caught my eye was the no outstanding fines being $5. What's kind of what is the rate of accrual of those fines now?
It depends on what it is. It could be a lost book, or it could be a daily rate, which is 10 cents per day. So it just depends on what it
$5
is.
is relatively high.
It could, if it's $5 is high if it's a book that has not been returned.
One of the reasons why I was asking that is I was just wondering, it seemed to me anyone that would need these, a hotspot and a Chromebook and things like that might be in an emergency situation. And maybe that seemed kind of, maybe a bigger cushion, possibly, something as high, something maybe around. With $5.
I think that was a great question.
This isn't the section though where we're talking about the fees and the fees for damage and things like that.
That will be on another motion.
Okay.
There's two action items. This one is, the first item is to recommend or deny, correct.
And Mr. President, if you wanted to make that as part of the recommendation, as far as if having council consider increasing that cushion, or if that's the majority consensus of the board, you can do that.
To be honest, I don't feel really strongly about it. I kind of
okay.
want to throw it out there, see what others thought, but it wasn't something I was married to.
Just want to, that is something though, if there's a recommendation or something that goes along, that you can make that.
Motion that we recommend it. Okay.
So I'm starting voting. Motion carried, 3-0. The next action item on the same, on E1, is the recommendation or denying the taking to council the mobile device fines and fee agreement.
I wondered what what's been the history with the track record with other similar programs throughout the years in terms of damage and people stealing them or not returning them.
With the current world we live in, which is everything is changing, this is brand new. There is a great cost, you know, compared to books that are checked out. If you look at some of the cost of the equipment, you're looking at up to, I believe there's between $400, $1,000. So this is the first time I have attended meetings with other libraries that have participated in this, and they do have points that the items are not returned, and the California State Library accepts that. I mean, it's something we don't want to happen, but at this point, they're trying to get libraries and the internet in the hands of those people that need it. Some of the libraries actually go out to areas that the patrons are not typically residents of the area, and so and trying to still serve those people that don't have an address where they can be found. So so this is understood by the state library, but you know, we'll take every measure to make sure that this serves all people, everybody. But
For instance, when you're charging $489 for a lost, damaged, or stolen iPad Air, where does that cost come from? Because obviously it's a greater cost than almost $500 for an iPad Air, right?
no, actually, those are the actual costs.
That is the actual
yes.
cost.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if it's direct cost.
Yes.
Yes.
So these items will be cataloged into our system. So they will be checked out just like a book or any of our other special items that we check out now. And we have purchased, upon our IT department's recommendation, we reached out to them and they provided us a great unit that we can store the digital equipment and have them charged and ready to go when the next person comes in to check it out. But yes, they'll be cataloged in our system.
I'll make a motion we pass.
I second.
Start voting. Motion carried, 3-0.
On to the children's area furnishings.
Mr. President, members of the board, a design for the children's area was created in 2021 to provide a more welcoming and interactive space for patrons. Purchases of the furnishings were completed in phases due to availability of funding through the Cannabis CUP. The third and last phase to complete the project comprises of a Libra Craft curved mobile shelving section and square bench in the amount of $12,012. The library budget for the fiscal year 2021-22 includes an available balance of $4,567 from the Cannabis CUP. Currently, the library has $7,740 in funding available due to cost savings on various line items. Together, the balance available is $12,306, which will enable the purchase of the final phase of the children's furnishings. Acquiring the final phase will allow public services staff to install phases 2 and 3 during the same time as a complete project. Staff requests the board's recommendation to approve the purchase and to submit to City Council on March 16th the request for authorization to purchase the LibraCraft curved mobile shelving section and square bench. And we did provide you that one section that is the final section to be purchased.
Pretty standard. I mean, I don't have any questions. I'll make a motion that we recommend it.
Take it to voting. Motion carried, 3-0. Thank you.
Now we'll move to the reports section. Yes, any staff reports?
I have a lengthy staff report, Mr. President and members of the board. First of all, I really want to thank you for recommending the purchase of the final phase for the children's section. It's our hope to have all our furnishings to be installed before summer so that we can again start using our community room, which will be needed for our summer programming. We're in the middle of We actually have our first meeting tomorrow with all our staff to discuss our summer reading program and the library, all the programs we'll be having this summer. I'll go ahead and start off. I won't go into too much detail on the first one since there was a presentation made on it at our last meeting. I just want to let you know that the grant application for the California State Library for the Stronger Together Teen Makers Learn, Play, and Create program has been submitted. And our fingers and toes are crossed that we will be receiving that notice of funding on March 31st so we can begin implementing that program starting April 1st. We're very excited about that program to serve our teens. Our next item, we have a grant application that will be submitted to the California State Library as well by March 10th in 2 days to provide the pop-up libraries at the community meal sites, in addition to the Farm to Summer Edible Garden for its Lunch at the Library project this summer. Funds are scheduled to be awarded in April 2022. These are very quick moving funding opportunities. And then one great event, this is our inaugural event the city is holding with our autism support of Imperial County. We're recognizing the city of Imperial, as well as everyone else, is recognizing Autism Awareness Month in April. And so the City of Imperial and Autism Support of Imperial County has partnered to hold an event at Yeager Park. And the Imperial Public Library, along with the Parks Department, will be providing resources at the event to visit the library and partake in the different activities at the park. This will be held on Saturday, April 9th from 1 p.m. until 5 p.m. And this event will be open to the community and will provide family-focused activities along with resources available in the Imperial County. So this is something to serve all of the autism support of an Imperial County, but also all of the community, so they can come, and if they have any questions, they can participate as well. Next is our Imperial Market Days. This is our final event of the season, our Color Fest event, and it's scheduled for Saturday, April 23rd from 5 p.m. until 10 p.m. And we will have our library booth there at the event to provide information about library resources and upcoming programs, along with free craft activities for the children. The next item is the library was awarded the $500 reimbursement grant that was applied for to the California State Library and Southern California Library Cooperative to provide the Dia de los Niños program in April. This event will celebrate children and books in ways to honor and embrace the children's home language and culture. A date for this event will be confirmed tomorrow during our library staff meeting. It will either be Friday the 29th or Saturday the 23rd. We do have 2 Saturday events scheduled for April, so I wanted to meet with our staff first for input of that. Almost towards the end. This is very exciting. Our State Library Shared Vision Early Learning with Families grant completion date is at the end of this month, March 31st. A final report will be submitted to the State Library in April. The State Library has opened a new grant opportunity for early learning with families titled Stronger Together. The library is currently working on the application for funding, which is due March 28th. The library is requesting funding for personnel to continue its current, and I'm spelling out the acronym, or saying out the acronym for you, Sing, Play, Read, Observe Uniquely Together, which is our Sprout program. With addition, we will be adding our ASL and bilingual story times. Funding will also be requested to implement the next phase of our program titled Sprout, Growing Together. This phase will include a children's edible garden, a seed library, along with family activities and resources to go with gardening. Our next, almost last item, is April 3rd through the 9th, we will be celebrating National Libraries Week. This annual event celebrates the contributions of our nation's libraries and librarians and promotes library use and support. And I just wanted to add that I'm always available to schedule a meeting with any one of you to go over any of the agenda items, or if there's anything that you would like to have placed on the agenda. And I'd like to thank you for your continued commitment.
Are there any trustees' reports? No, I don't have any either. So if there's nothing else, we'll adjourn to the next meeting on April 12th.